Hello students, before we begin the chapter, let's get to know the writer. Khushwant Singh is an Indian writer who was born in Pakistan in 1915. He died in New Delhi in 2014. So he lived for 99 years, and of course he had different kinds of experiences as a writer, as a journalist, as a diplomat, as a lawyer, and even as a politician. He was awarded the Padma Bhushan, which he returned as a mark of protest against Operation Blue Star. He was then awarded the Padma Vibhushan. His most popular book, the most successful one, is The Train to Pakistan, which is based on the partition of India. And if you see his life period, he has been a part of it. He has seen it firsthand, the partition of India. So he reflects that whatever he came to know about it on the humanitarian grounds, not the political side of it or anything, in The Train to Pakistan. The other books include A History of the Sikhs, Delhi, I Shall Not Hear the Nightingale, then Truth, Love and a Little Malice. Coming to the chapter, Portrait of a Lady, we should first understand the title. Portrait is a picture. It could be a painting or a sketch or a photograph. Usually the head of the person, head and the shoulder of the person, that is included in the portrait. And here lady is the speaker. Writer and the speaker need not always be same. Okay, now this chapter is based on several themes, and some of the few important ones I have noted it down here. The first is the relationship between grandmother and grandson. Next is the life in a village and city. Now, you know, both these things are very different. Village and city. Life is very different. And your relationship with people also change when you change the place. Now, the last theme that we can see is the plight of the elderly, which often we ignore. We feel we give them food, we give them shelter, we give them clothes, as if that is all that is enough. Now, coming to the chapter, we see that the writer begins by describing the speaker's grandmother. The speaker here is a small child when the chapter begins. It's from the perspective of a young boy. This boy, when he looks at his grandmother, he feels that she is very old and she has always been old. He cannot even imagine that she could have been a young girl, and he finds it very repulsive to think that she was once a young girl and used to play with other kids and all. But people used to say that she was once young and pretty. He just describes her as an old woman who is short and fat and slightly bent, and she has one hand on her hip to balance herself. She has wrinkles on her face. He says she's not pretty, but beautiful. There is a difference between both the words. Pretty is outer beauty, and beautiful is the inner beauty. Okay, so he feels the grandmother is not pretty, but definitely beautiful. She has all scattered white hair, and she's always dressed in spotless white. Okay, and she's another thing to be noted is he has always remembered her as a woman who continuously prays. She has rosary in her hand. She keeps counting the rosary beads, and there is always prayer at her lips. Then there is no grandfather in the house. He feels he's just a picture in the drawing room, and he must have been dead for quite some time because he does not remember seeing a grandfather. And this man in the picture has a big turban, loose fitting clothes, and a white beard that covers his chest. And from the child's point of view, this grandfather looks around 100 years old, and he looks like a person who cannot have wife and children. Those are for young people, so he looks like a person who can have only grandchildren. So that is about the grandmother and the picture of the grandfather. Now when the story begins, they are both living in a village. The child's parents are in the city, and the grandmother and the grandchild share a very close bond. Grandmother wakes up the child in the morning, gets him ready to school, feeds him, keeps all his pencils and pens and ink and notebook, slate, everything. She keeps it properly in his bag, packs it for him, and then they have breakfast together and then walk together to school. Now the school is near the temple. So the grandmother sits in the temple and prays, and the child goes to the school nearby, and he studies the alphabet. Then on the way back, the grandmother, distributes chapatis. She throws chapatis to the dogs, and the dogs wait for them because they know that they are going to be fed. Now, you see that this is a very, the village life is very calm, very peaceful, very relaxed, and they are always together, not just at home, but on their way to school. Even at school, they are not very far away from each other. Then they come back together. There is this love for animals and all. Okay, but this changes. This was the first phase of their life. The second phase is when the parents of the child call them both to the city. Now, city life is very different. When the parents, when they go to the city, the grandmother and the grandchild, they share the same room, but the bond between them weakens. What happens? The child is admitted to an English school. Now the grandmother does not have to take him to school. He goes by bus, and whatever he learns there, the grandmother cannot understand, so she cannot help him. On top of that, she is not happy with the subjects because first thing, they don't teach anything about God. Second thing, they've started teaching music. According to the grandmother, music is for prostitutes and beggars. It's not for decent men, decent children, decent people. So she's not at all happy. And because the distance between the grandmother and grandchild is increasing, she starts feeding sparrows. She spends her time feeding sparrows. Okay. Now, this distance is further increased when in the third phase the writer goes to the university. When the child goes to the university, he is no longer a child, but when he goes to the university, he needs a separate room. Now this room was the common link for both of them. This link snaps. Now there is more distance between the grandmother and the grandchild. So grandmother starts spending her time spinning, and she also keeps reciting the prayers. She starts talking less to people. She spends her afternoons feeding the sparrows. So we see there is no love lost, but there certainly is a distance. There is a distance between the grandmother and the grandchild. Then what happens is now the child has to go abroad for his studies. The boy, not a child. The boy has to go abroad for his studies. He feels that his grandmother would be very upset because he has to leave, and that too for 5 years. And 5 years is a long time. She might die before he returns. He gets very emotional. But then he looks at the grandmother. She does not show any emotion. There is no sentimental talks or tears or anything. As usual, she is very silent. She is busy in her prayer. And then at the railway station, she kisses her grandson's forehead. That's it. That's the only emotion that she shows. But the grandson takes this imprint in his mind, in his heart, and for all these 5 years, scared that she might die. And then when he comes back, nothing has changed. It's the same. Grandmother has not died. She does not look older. She does not look younger. She just gives him a hug. And even when she's hugging him, he can hear she's praying. She's continuously praying. There is no outburst of emotion. And even that day, the happiest moment seems to be in the afternoon with the sparrows. But in the evening, things change. What happens is, the grandmother, suddenly she changes in a way. She collects all the women in the neighborhood. She takes up an old drum and starts beating it and starts singing. And the family has to persuade her. They had to persuade her to stop because she might strain herself. It was the first time that the author had seen her not praying. Now next day, the grandmother falls sick. And the doctor says it's just a fever, it will subside. But the grandmother, she has a premonition that she is going to die. She says, I'm not going to waste time talking to anyone. I just have to pray. And she lays down and just prays silently. After some time, she dies. The family mourns for some time, and the evening the body has to be cremated. So they go with a wooden stretcher to take the body. But they notice one thing. The entire house, the room, the verandas, the courtyard, every place is full of sparrows, thousands of sparrows. And these sparrows are all around mourning the death of the grandmother. The mother of the house, she feels bad for the sparrows. She feels that they might have come for food. So she prays to them. But they do not touch it at all. Because their purpose for coming to the grandmother is not food. It's just the love that she shares with them. And this love, this unconditional love, is something that the grandmother had right from the beginning. Very selfless, unconditional love. She had it for her grandson, she had it for the dogs in the street, the sparrows in the new house, in the city. You will never see her mourning anything. She bears all the changes, all the tragedies in her life very stoically. The emotions are not too strong, although the feelings are there in her. Because just once when she expressed those feelings, the next day she passes away. Okay. Now, this chapter, when you look at it, we see that unknowingly we tend to forget that the old people, they need companionship, which most often we forget to give them.